What if I told you that technology can make the ocean quieter and life underwater safer? Beneath the surface, the sea is alive with sound. Whales singing, dolphins echolocating, but today it's under threat. In this new episode of BlueTech Around the World, we dive into one of the most overlooked forms of pollution, underwater noise. From massive shipping routes to offshore construction, human activities are disrupting entire marine ecosystems with noise pollutions that travels for hundreds of kilometers. For marine life, it's not just disruptive, it's a survival issue. I speak with Gwenaël Desse, Chief Business Officer at Greenov, who introduces the SubSea Quieter, a solution to reduce underwater noise while keeping offshore projects on track. We explore science, regulation, innovation, and how we can build for the ocean without destroying it. Don't miss this episode, it's time to listen to the ocean, now streaming on all platforms. Before we dive in, just a quick note. This episode is proudly supported by Team East Côte d'Azur, the agency-supported business establishment on the French Riviera. And if you are passionate about ocean innovation and business, I've got something for you. This June, all eyes will be on the French Riviera as the United Nations Ocean Conference, UNOC, comes to Nice. And while you are in town, you are invited to the Nice Ocean Business Forum from June 9 to 11. On June 9, don't miss the Economic Attractiveness and Investment Day, a full day of insights, startup pitches, and high-level networking at the Innovation Hub in Nice. It's the place to be for investors, startups, and entrepreneurs looking to scale BlueTech solution and explore investment potential and territorial attractiveness in East Côte d'Azur. No UNOC accreditation needed, just register online, it's free and open to all blue economy changemakers. I'll be moderating one of the sessions myself, so if you are joining, come say hi. Register now via the link in the description. And now let's get into today's episode. Hello everyone and welcome back to BlueTech Around the World, your go-to source for blue technologies and ocean innovation. Today we cover a fascinating topic that often goes unheard, which is the soundscape of the ocean. Jacques Cousteau famously described the underwater world as the silent world, but the truth is far from it. Beneath the waves, the ocean is anything but quiet. It's a vibrant, dynamic environment full of sounds, and none of it is natural. For marine life, sound is critical. It's how dolphins communicate, how whales navigate vast oceans, and how many species find food and avoid predators. But here is the problem. Human activities has introduced unprecedented levels of noise into the ocean, disrupted ecosystem, and threatening marine species. So let me play you a short clip of what underwater noise pollution can sound like. This was generously shared with us by our guests and recording during one of their projects, so listen closely. Now, imagine trying to communicate, navigate, or feed in an environment like that. It's jarring, isn't it? For marine life, this noise isn't just an inconvenience. It's a survival challenge. Shipping lanes, offshore construction, and industrial operation have introduced unprecedented levels of noise into marine ecosystem. And this underwater noise pollution is now a recognized environmental issue, prompting regulatory action and inspiring innovative solutions like the SubSea Quieter, a technology designed to tackle underwater noise pollution. And to guide us through this fascinating topic, I'm thrilled to welcome Gwenaël, a passionate advocate for ocean protection and leader in innovation. Gwenaël graduated from Cote Business School. He is specialized in strategic marketing and business development. He spent 5 years in the innovation department of Naval Group, the French leader in the naval industry, as a technical analyst for R&D projects, and then as an innovation project manager in Naval Group incubators. Passionate about innovation and with a desire to put his energy at the service of ocean protection, he joined Greenov in January 2022. He now holds the position of Chief Business Officer, with particular responsibility for developing sales and international partnership for the SubSea Quieters. So, Gwenaël, welcome to the show. It's a pleasure to have you with us today.
It's a pleasure also. Thank you so much for this introduction.
Thank you, Gwenaël. So let's start with a bit of your background. Can you tell us what inspired your journey from working in naval innovation to being in ocean conservation?
Yes, definitely. So I'm Gwenaël Desse, and as my first name suggests, I'm from Brittany. So I have this special relationship with the sea. And also, when I was a kid, I lived in Martinica during 4 years. So I spent my early years exploring the Caribbean underwater world. So that's why also I'm truly close to all the marine ecosystem. So about my background, I'm a business school graduate, and I always have a big interest in innovation and technical challenge, technical products. And like I said, when I made no mistake in joining Naval Group, the French company that builds submarines and military vessels. What could be more complex and interesting than a submarine? For a young, the first job, it was definitely a good choice because submarine, it's a concentration of cutting-edge technologies. It's also a vehicle that has to go several hundred meters deep, carry a crew, energy for the production, and also weapons. So of course, it's a beautiful object with a lot of technology, and a submarine has to be very discreet in terms of acoustic. So it was my first approach about acoustic sounds, underwater noise. In Naval Group, I try to understand why there are some issue about underwater noise for the ecosystem and so on. At Naval Group, I worked 5 years in the innovation department as an innovation analyst and then as a project manager for the group incubators. And I work a lot with some startups. And at one moment, I want also to live my proper experience in terms of entrepreneurship. So that's why I wanted to join a startup. And during my last year in Naval Group, I was the opportunity to help in parallel a young startup called Greenov. And I knew very closely the founder of Greenov, Damien Demour, because he was my first manager when I started to work in Naval Group. And so I started to help him to create Greenov. And it was a pleasure to become the chief business officer of Greenov in January 2023.
Thank you, Gwenaël. And it's an impressive career, a blue journey, a blue job. And it's funny to see how you came from like the naval, the defense with the submarine, with exactly what you say, this acoustic that is really important for the detection of the submarine, for example, and going to the underwater noise. So what linked you from the defense and the submarine to the underwater noise and the preservation of maritime ecosystem? So that's funny to see how you link these two worlds together. So let's now talk about the big picture. When we discuss underwater noise pollution, what exactly does that mean? Why is it such a significant threat to marine ecosystem? Can you tell us a little bit about more about that for our listener?
Yes, of course. So to start, I think it's important to say that underwater noise, it's not a new topic. It's there are some scientific works for more than 25 years now, so it's really a documented topic. But I know that the general public may not be aware of the impact of underwater noise, but it's very important. So underwater noise is now recognized as one of the worst form of marine pollutions generated by human activities. And I think you made a great introduction about the different sources from a vessel, different type of works, but also military operations, for example. And depends of the activities, but there are three main factors to consider about noise pollutions. It's of course the level of noise in decibel, the frequencies, and these frequencies will have a big impact about the propagation of sounds, and also the sources and how much the ecosystem are close to these sources. And depending on these three factors, you can have a big impact about all the ecosystem. Of course, we think directly about marine mammals, whales and dolphins, but scientific show also that there are some impact about invertebrate, fish, turtle, seals. So all the ecosystem that are living underwater can be impacted by underwater noise. So that's why also it's very important to consider. And the last thing is to say that underwater world, it's very complex and different than above the surface. There are almost no light, so you can't see underwater. So all the ecosystem have to use underwater noise to communicate, for localization, for feeding, and so on. So it's a little bit like the eye for the human. It's underwater sounds for the marine animals living underwater.
Thank you, Gwenaël. And yes, that's such an important point. I read that noise pollution can mask whale songs over hundreds of kilometers and prevent dolphins from echolocating properly. So it's clear that it's more than just an environmental concern, and it could have impact on the whole biodiversity. For our listener, we listened to the sounds at the beginning in the intro. Can you give us a little of the context? In what context did you record these sounds?
So this song is not a scientific song. Actually, it's a combination of different songs that are saved by one of our partners called Chorus Acoustic that propose some services on the acoustic monitoring thanks to some hydrophones. So they managed to have a big database of sounds, especially, of course, animals, dolphins, whales, and also fishes. And also a lot of anthropic sounds from vessel, for example, and also from maritime works, especially the pile driving operations that can create very intense noise, low frequency noise, and that can, yes, propagate more than 100 kilometers away. And thanks to this sounds database, we are able to create these songs that present first some vocalism from a whale. Then the proper noise of a vessel that is coming. And in the last of the songs, it's more like a pile driving operations. And you can see that it's accumulated. So it's not only one sound, it's just like a superposition of different sounds. And we can really understand why biodiversity are very impacted by underwater noise.
Yeah, we can really feel the cumulative effects and the different superposition of the noise on this specific one. BlueTech Around the World. Okay, but what about regulation? Because it seems that a big concern for everyone. You see that searchers have known about this issue for a long time. So what about regulation? Are they framework in place to address underwater noise pollution? And how do they influence industry like offshore energy, construction, and shipping, for example?
Yes, it is a very, very good question. And I think it's the regulation that will lead all the work about underwater noise. So about the legal framework, I think it's the European Union that starts the discussion. The European Union leads the work about underwater noise in the framework of the European Marine Framework Directive in 2008. And thanks to this directive, they advise all the European members to take some actions and measures to control underwater noise. And then it's Germany and the Netherlands that are the two countries that define some noise threshold and to regulate also the seasonality of work. And what we can see for several years now is that it's not only in Europe, but it's coming to be international. And it's really something that we want to share to all our future customers and partners, is to say that, yes, it's coming. And it's not just a few countries, it's coming for all the countries, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, Denmark, all the European countries, of course, that are involved in the offshore industry, but also in North America, USA and Canada, and of course Australia and Taiwan, that take some also inspiration from Germany regulation. So definitely it's important, and there are a lot of scientific behind these regulations to define some threshold according the species that are living close to the sea of the country, of course. And also, I think there are also a work to try to harmonize these regulations at an European level first, and maybe tomorrow in the international way. Because for now, there are a lot of regulations, but for each country, there are actual regulations. So we are waiting, I think, an homogenization of this regulation.
Yeah, it's good to know that now it's spreading the world. It begins from Europe, and then the country are implementing it in their national regulation. And that some international organization, I'm also thinking about the IMO, and I know that they have a specialty more like on the marine transportation rather than, for example, port construction or offshore wind, but it shows that things are evolving. And just jumping on your first remarks on that, in your view, will change in underwater noise mitigation be driven more by regulations, by industry like offshore winds and ports taking the initiative, or by technology provider like Greenov pushing innovation forward? What's your personal opinion on that?
Yes, interesting. I think it's a mix of all these aspects. Definitely, I think the first factor is the regulations, because when you have regulations, I think like big industrials, big companies like construction companies, marine contractors, offshore developers, T&I company that are working on the foundation, offshore foundation for the wind farm, for example. All these actors now need to consider underwater noise as an obligation. So they have some acoustic experts also for different projects that can also bring some expertise to them to understand what is the impact and why it's important, and how they can use some noise mitigation system or acoustic monitoring system to estimate the underwater noise that they generate after the operations. So definitely, I think the first factor is the regulations. Then we can see that there are a change also in the team of the different maritime actors. Now, all the big companies have some experts, dedicated experts, to lead this discussion about underwater noise, especially with the authorities. So we can see that it's not just a second problem; it's now one of the biggest priority of the sector. So it's true that offshore developers have leading the discussions and the work about noise mitigation system. What I can see also, it's the port authority or all the marine contractor starts to be interesting about underwater noise, but it's not as advanced than offshore industry. And I think there are two main actors also that are helping us, of course, like Greenov, to try to to discuss about this topic and to communicate about it. It's the NGO, for example, the IFO, the International Warfare for the Protection of the Animals. They are very deeply engaged for this communication about underwater noise. And there are also a lot of scientific bodies that make a great work, and a lot of scientific studies to demonstrate the effect of underwater noise on the different marine ecosystem.
So if I sum up, we need everyone around the table to make this subject a priority in the political agenda and in the next technological innovation and roadmap for the industry. BlueTech Around the World. So now that we have explored the problem and the regulatory landscape, let's talk solutions. So Gwenaël, the SubSea Quieter is truly innovative. Can you describe how it works, particularly its groundbreaking 3D membrane technologies, and what makes it so unique compared to other systems for noise mitigation? A lot of questions.
So about the SubSea Quieter, I think first, before introducing the technology, I think it's important to consider what is the underwater noise, a physical principle. Noise, it's a propagating wave of energy. So, of course, depending on the frequencies, this wave of energy can propagate over hundreds of kilometers. And with the SubSea Quieter, we are targeting one type of operations. It's pile driving operations that can generate very intense noise, low frequency noise, and with a big level of noise up to 250 decibels. So it's like an explosion, a maritime underwater explosions in terms of decibel. The problem of these operations, as you understand, it's the low frequencies because they are going to be spread around 100 kilometers. And these low frequencies are very difficult to mitigate. And today, on the market, there are only few solutions to reduce underwater noise, and they are not very efficient for these low frequencies. So that's why we decided to develop the SubSea Quieter. We create the SubSea Quieter in the first place to reduce these low frequencies. So how it works? So the main component of the SubSea Quieter is an innovative membrane, 3 times patented. And with this membrane, we are able to create some panels. And then we inflate these panels with some air to create a break of impedance between water and air. So we have some panel with this membrane. Each panel is connected to a pipe and then to an air compressor. And we are able to inflate this panel with the right quantity of air to have the same thickness of the panel for all the water column. And thanks to this panel, very flexible panel, thanks to this membrane, we are able to create 3 types of different SubSea Quieter to be really adaptable to the different type of works, different site conditions, current level, wave level, depth, of course, and really to be adapted to these operations, both in offshore condition and in harbor conditions.
Thank you, Gwenaël. It was really clear. But just one question. How does this technology work in practice? Is it really during the operation like by driving or coastal construction? Can you share a real-world example where it's been successfully applied?
Yes, definitely. So with the SubSea Quieter, as you understood, we are targeting 2 main markets. The harbor works with a small infrastructure, small pile, dredging operations, and so on, but with not a big hydrodynamic conditions, and often there are less than 20 meters of depth. And the second market is the offshore foundation works. So it's, of course, in offshore with offshore conditions, so big waves, big current, and so on. So I think, yes, the SubSea Quieter will not work exactly the same way depending of the type of operations. So to give you a concrete example, for an offshore operations, so the idea of Greenov is to provide the SubSea Quieter as an equipment. This equipment, the system will be integrated under the tool of the vessel, the offshore vessel, that are manage all the foundation works for a wind turbines project, for example. So especially for monopile. So the idea is to put the monopile in place and then to use a big hammer to make the pile driving operations. And the idea is when the pile is in positions, the idea of the SubSea Quieter is to be like a socks that we put around the pile before the hammering operation starts. And once the system is fully deployed and inflated, operation can start and the system will mitigate underwater noise.
Sounds easy like that.
Yes, but in reality, it's of course very complex because we need to be integrated properly under the tool of the vessel. Of course, there are few companies that can provide this kind of tools, but each tools are different, of course. And as I mentioned, in offshore conditions, there are sometimes big wave, big currents, so we need to have a really strong system to resist to this condition. And also, all the operations are very costly in offshore, so our system has to be very resistant, of course, but also in terms of operational life, it needs to be very accurate. We do not have to add any extra operational time. Even few hours of this type of offshore vessels, it's like hundred of thousand euros. So that's why it's very important to develop our system step by step to be sure that our system will fit with all these requirements.
I can imagine. I know how much and how difficult is it to do the offshore work. So you need to have a system that is robust, and also that you can customize and personalize depending of the partners that you have, and also the configuration and the characteristic of the environment. Listening to you, I'm just curious. I have a question. Does your system can have an impact for the turbidity? Because you were talking about harbor when there are some dredging and construction work. Is it also one of the applications that could be in your scope, or maybe you already have it in mind, or it's already applicable?
Yes. So about offshore market, I think turbidity is not really an issue, but you're completely right about harbor works. There are two main impacts: underwater noise and turbidity. And our system, the SubSea Quieter, works for the two issue. So when there are some turbidity, we can also propose the SubSea Quieter as a curtain, and it will mitigate underwater noise and turbidity. And for example, we are in ongoing offer for the Miami port, and there are a big issue about turbidity because it's for a big works close to some cruise terminal, and the port authorities do not want to have turbidity spread close to to this terminal with a lot of tourists and so on. So they want to curtain strictly all the turbidity, and we propose our system to do that with specific configurations. But yes, it's just an example to say that the SubSea Quieter, it's a mixed system, both for underwater noise and turbidity.
BlueTech Around the World.
Okay, thanks. So we talk a lot about technique. Now I'm asking a question to the business guy. You know, when you talk to your customers, so I'm sure you talk about the environmental advantage to comply with the regulation, but I'm sure with what you just say about offshore works, it also helps reduce the cost or improve operational efficiency compared to traditional noise mitigation systems. So can you give us some insight about, you know, what are the other advantage? What do you say in your sales speech to your customers? Because we know that it's money that runs the world. So even if we have more people that are greener and want to protect the environment, at the end, you need to show that there is value for the final customer regarding production, cost, whatever. So what's your sales pitch on that?
Yes, so perfect. You're completely right. So, of course, when I try to conclude one of my pitch, of course, we discuss about what was the solutions on the market available now and what the SubSea Quieter can offer. So just about quick overview of the solutions as the SubSea Quieter on the market now. One of the main solutions is a bubble curtain. It's a solution that's quite simple with a pipe and with some hole, and you connect this pipe with several compressors, has like 20 or 30 compressors, and then you fulfill this pipe continuously to create some bubble, and this bubble will go up to the surface and can create a bubble curtain around the foundation. And of course, it's one of the main solutions that are used now by the market. So of course, when I think I make the conclusions of my pitch. I try to compare the SubSea Quieter with this bubble curtain. So in comparison, just to give you some figures, we are like 5 times more performant with a reduction between 12 and 35 decibels, depending of course of the frequencies. More it is the low frequencies, more it's difficult to have a big level of mitigations. But even for 50 hertz, very low frequencies, we got around 12 dB. A bubble curtain, it's around 3 dB. We save money because our system is integrated under the tool of the vessel, and it can be easily deployed without any other operation means, cranes, vessel, and so on. And so we can save between 10 and 50 million euros per wind farm in comparison with bubble curtain, because bubble curtain, they need an extra vessel to deploy it. They need 20 to 30 a compressor on board to fulfill the pipe. So we can really save a lot of money, especially because operations in offshore conditions is very costly. Our system is designed to resist to maritime environment because we trap the air inside of the panel. So if there's some current, wave, it's not an issue for us. Whereas the bubble curtain, of course, the bubble, if there are some wave or currents, they will move. So they will not have a curtain anymore. So it can also have a big impact about the efficiency of the system. And of course, our system is really adaptable because, as you understood, it's some panels that we are able to link together to be really adaptable to the side characteristic, especially the depth or the pile diameter. And of course, the idea of the system is to not add any operational time when we deployed and when we recover the system. So our idea is to be able to deploy and recover the system during the manutention time when the customer takes the hammer and to put it on the top of the pile. So yes, all these arguments, I think, show that our system is very good alternative. And also in terms of greenhouse footprint, again, our system, the idea is to trap the air inside of the panel. So once the system is inflated, we do not need the compressor anymore. And in comparison, bubble curtain, you need 30 compressors continuously working. So it's huge in terms of impact about greenhouse gas. It's around 4 tons of CO2 for the SubSea Quieter and almost 15,000 tons for a bubble curtain for 60 or 80 foundation. So it's a huge, big difference. All these advantages, I think, are quite convincing. And yes, we try to convince our customers to take the risk to test now the SubSea Quieter in offshore condition.
You convinced me. It was a great sales speech. So to sum up, you say efficiency, of course, the cost for the installation, for the ongoing of the operation, environmental, of course, with the emission, as you were saying, and the adaptability. So yeah, exactly. I think we covered the big picture, and it was quite clear. Actually, for our listener, I just want to go a little deeper on that, because we often hear about acoustic monitoring device to measure ocean noise, but monitoring alone isn't enough, and we need active solutions, just like you said. And I just wanted to break this down for listener, because we have several categories of noise mitigation strategies. The first one is the source reduction, so lowering the amount of type of noise created, for example, by using quieter vessels like electric or hybrid ships. The second one, the one that you focus with the SubSea Quieter, is the propagation reduction, so decreasing how far and how strongly the noise spreads through tools like the SubSea Quieter, the bubble curtains, or any kind of innovation. There is also the receptor protection, which is shielding marine life by scheduling construction around key times like migration or breeding periods. So most of these times there are partnership with NGOs and the marine mammal observers that's going to say, okay, there is a marine mammal here, stop the construction right now, stop the operation. But it's more like a reactive way, and it could be really costly for the offshore industry. And then there is also the alternative foundation. You mentioning they are, for example, using floating wind turbine or tension leg platform that don't require noisy pipe driving. So also the choice about the foundation and the technique will have an impact on the noise. So that was just to give you an overview of how we can mitigate the sounds.
BlueTech Around the World.
So Gwenaël, how does Greenov and the SubSea Quieter fit into this broader landscape of noise mitigation? Do you have partners with underwater noise monitoring system or NGOs? How do you position yourself in this broad ecosystem?
Yes, very, very interesting. You're right. Water noise is a complex challenge. And often when there are some really high noise threshold, one method or one solution, it's not enough. So it's more combinations of underwater noise reduction methods. As you mentioned, first method is working more about the foundation methods to find, for example, quieter foundations. Then there are some system like us, noise abatement system, when the noise is already on the environment, and also other type of system, not really to reduce underwater noise, but to be sure that the ecosystem will not be very impacted. So you mentioned, and I think it's really true, it's a combination of methods. Of course, we provide a system, a noise abatement system. So we try to be really competitive in terms of noise reductions. But I think all the others initiative, especially in the offshore sector, are very great. And I think it's, yes, I think it's moving in the right direction. About our ecosystem, we are, of course, working with a lot of scientific or technical institutes or environmental consulting companies that have some deep understanding about underwater noise, impact on the ecosystem, but also for monitoring actions. Because of course, especially now, we are still in the development phases of the SubSea Quieter. We need to demonstrate the performances of the SubSea Quieter. So we work with this company for the monitoring of the demonstration project that we carry out. And the idea is, of course, to have some acoustic measures without the SubSea Quieter and then with the SubSea Quieter, and to show the difference, the gap, allowed by the SubSea Quieter. So, of course, we are working a lot with this type of companies, but in the same time, we do not want, to have like a strong business relationship between the two companies, because we are a provider of equipment and they are more provider of, some reports about underwater noise emission conditions. So they need to be very independent about the performances and the threshold and so on. So it's important, yes, to say, okay, we are a provider. There are more services and consulting companies. For some projects, we're working together. But if a client, we have the same client, but if a client asks to the consulting companies, what are the results? They need to provide the result of the SubSea Quieter and to be really independent about the conclusions of this consulting company.
I completely understand that we need this transparency and independence for all of the industry to benefit from the knowledge, the data of this monitoring acoustic system, and also their study and their intelligence and how they interpret this data, and of course the technology providers. So yeah, working together but keeping the independence to be able to measure the efficiency of the different systems.
BlueTech Around the World.
Great. So it's really exciting to hear about the potential of future innovation in the different maritime space. So I would like, again, a personal opinion. According to you, what are some of the next technologies or innovations that you think will shape the future of underwater noise mitigation? It could be a new addition into the SubSea Quieter in your technical roadmap, or it could be something that you have in mind, or anything. Just give us your vision about innovation in these sectors.
Great. So I will try to not give you a secret because
Yeah,
of course we need to. I need to yes, of course, to discuss with my technical team before. But yes, what I have in mind, and especially in Greenov, I think Greenov, we are really engaged in the collaborative work. I think it's important. You mentioned that I think underwater noise, it's now a big challenge, and we need to work in collaborative way to find the best methods, the best tools, the best system. So that's why we try also to think about the combinations of solutions, and we are working in two combinations with the SubSea Quieter. The first one, you mentioned the monitoring system, buoys or hydrophones. This kind of device are now more and more capable of providing real-time noise levels, making it easier to adapt the method or the technology to reduce the type of frequency or a level of noise or something like that. So we want to think about have some actions when we got this result in a real-time result about underwater noise level during an operations, to adjust, to make some adaptation of our configuration of our system to reduce underwater noise. So this is our first way to try to increase again and again the performances of the SubSea Quieter. And the second one, it's more about the knowledge about other type of foundations. For now, we got, and companies got a lot of data about monopile because are very big, around 8 to 12 meters of diameter. But for jacket foundation, so more diameter around 2 meters, we do not have a lot of data. And you mentioned also the floating wind turbines. There are maybe also some pile driving for the anchoring system in deep water, above 300 meters sometimes. So we want to work also about the adaptation of the SubSea Quieter to reduce underwater noise for this kind of foundation. And if the SubSea Quieter for deep foundation, it's not enough, we want also to work about some metamaterials effect. It's materials that can have some physical principle that can reduce underwater noise. And so it will be, I think, a complete different system than the SubSea Quieter. But for deep water, above 300 meters, it could be also a solution to put some acoustic materials in some structure to reduce the vibration and the noise generated by some operations.
Thank you, Gwenaël, for your insight. So I can really see the potential with, all the real-time data now that we are collected, and with the opportunity for us to react and even to automatize sometimes some operation and adaptation of your system. And that's great to know on your second topic that you are also exploring the adaptation of your solution to different kind of foundation, and going deeper and deeper and more offshore, because we know that it's a big topic in the agenda. So it's good to know that you are also watching these trends and be ready for the next to come. So thank you for sharing that. And so, yeah, it seems really promising. So looking ahead, what are the next steps, more like on the business side, for scaling the SubSea Quieter to larger offshore project, or maybe new industry? You were talking about the port of Miami. What are your next big steps in your development?
In 2024, it was really a key year for Greenov, really strategic. We were able to carry out two main testing. The first one, it was in Saint-Nazaire Harbour, with the first prototype of the SubSea Quieter dedicating for the pyriving operations, and it was really successful. We validate all the operational procedure and all the operational steps to deploy and recover the system. And then we also carry out, thanks to the collaboration with Quiet Oceans, we carry out some acoustic campaign also with different sources to have some performances also in low frequencies. So it was really a good step for us because now we have a product. It was a prototype, but still we can see the shape of the system and all the components. And in October of this year, we were able also to carry out a basin test with wave and current. So a lot of hydrodynamic conditions, and we put a reduced scale system in this basin in Océanide, close to Marseille. It was, of course, very important for us to validate that our design can really be resistant to these offshore conditions, and to reassure also our customers and future partners that our system is resistant and robust to a deployment in offshore condition. So I think 2024, it was like a strategic year for us to some technical works and to put a really strong base about the robustness of our system for our customers. And in 2025, we have two main challenges. The first one is to accelerate the business development of our solution. We just signed a joint national partnership with three main offshore developers, and we want to also propose this joint industrial partnership to some others internationally to support the development of our system and to be able to build the first product in 2027. And the second aspect is to be able to convince also some investors, because we plan to raise some money at the end of 2025, around 10 millions. And we already have the support of the EIC fund. It's a financial fund supported by the European Union. And so we got a part of the money, and now we need to be convincing to find the other part of the 10 millions for the different investors that want to invest on the SubSea Quieter. So I think in 2025, this is the two main challenge.
Wow, congratulations. And we wish you all the best. And if among the listeners there are some investors or partners, I will put the contact of Greenov in the description of the episode. So, Gwenaël, as we wrap up, is there anything you want to share with us?
So first, thank you for inviting me. I think it was very important also for us to not only speak about the SubSea Quieter itself, but also to try to give you some inputs about underwater noise and explain also what it's a big issue for all the marine ecosystem. And now just saying that we are still a startup. We are only 20 people now. We are growing, but all the support that can be offered will be more than welcome, especially for preparing our raising campaign. And also we are still recruiting some people, technical people more. So if you are interested about our activities, and you can go to our website. And yes, if you want to write me also in LinkedIn, I will be very happy to answer you.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Gwenaël. So you hear us. If you want a great blue job in a startup that will really revolutionize the solutions for underwater noise mitigation systems, and if you also want to invest in these new blue champions, don't hesitate to reach out to Gwenaël through LinkedIn or through the website that I will put on the episode description. So, Gwenaël, thank you so much for sharing your insights and passion with us today. It was a great episode, as you mentioned. I wanted to cover really the broad thematics of underwater noise system and also knowing more about your specific technology. So it was the perfect combination. Thank you. The SubSea Quieter is really an inspiring example of how innovation can tackle even the most complex environmental challenge like underwater noise. And so, to our listener, I would love to know what are your thoughts on underwater noise pollution. If you have encountered other innovation tackling this challenge, let us know in the comments or connect with us on social media. And don't forget to subscribe to BlueTech Around the World for more stories on ocean innovation and blue technologies. And until next time, let's keep protecting our ocean and the amazing life beneath the waves. Thank you very much, Gwenaël, again for joining us today.
Thank you again.
BlueTech around the world.